To use MySQL database inside our Spring Boot application, we need to make sure we are adding the required starter project dependencies inside the pom.xml. Inside the start.spring.io, you can click on this add dependencies and here type MySQL driver. Once you select this, you can click on this explore button, which is going to give you the pom.xml file. And here you'll be able to find the dependency details related to the MySQL. So let me copy this and close this. If you're not able to see the pom.xml, please make sure you have selected the Maven. If Gradle is selected, you're going to get the dependency details in a different format. Inside the pom.xml, first, I need to delete the H2 database, followed by I need to add the new dependency that we copied from the start.spring.io. If you are using IntelliJ Ultimate version, you don't have to follow all this manual approach. You can directly click on this add starters, which is going to take you to this window. Here, search for MySQL and select this. Once you've selected this dependency, the same will be added here. Let me click on this OK, which is going to add the new dependency. As you can see here, the new dependency details are added. Let me delete this H2 dependency. You need to make sure you are deleting this, otherwise you will end up having two different databases, which may create some issues during the startup of the application. Once you add these dependencies, please make sure you are clicking on the sync Maven changes, which will download all the MySQL related libraries into your local system. As the next step, we need to go to the application.properties, because inside this file only, we need to mention the connection details of the MySQL database. So here, I'm going to get rid of unwanted properties. We can remove this H2 driver related property, followed by this property related to database platform. First, let me mention username and password. I'm going to mention the default username, which is root. We didn't override the default username. Coming to the password also we set as root. The same I'm trying to mention here. This is the basic style of mentioning the values inside the application.properties. But any sensitive details or any properties that are going to change from environment to environment, for such properties, we can follow a better syntax. Let me show you what is that. First, you need to type $ followed by curly braces. Inside these curly braces, I'm going to mention a variable name as database_username followed by colon followed by root. So with this syntax, what we're trying to achieve is, if there is an environment variable created with the name database_username inside the server where this code is being run, the same will be read and value inside that variable will be used here at the runtime. Whereas if there is no environment variable available, the hard-coded username that we have mentioned here will be used. So this is like if condition and this will be the else condition. This is a standard that usually projects follow. Inside local development, developers, they can always mention their local database credentials like this. Whereas inside the higher environments like development, QA, production, under such environments, operations teams, they are going to create environment variables with the database_username or whatever environmental variable name that they want. The same variable name we need to use here. During the startup of the application, the Spring Boot is going to read those environment variables and the same it will try to use to establish a connection with the database. This way, projects will try to avoid exposing the higher environment database credentials. No developer will know what is the production database username and password or any other details. All those details will be maintained actually inside the production server with the help of these environment variables. We're going to talk more details about environment variables in the upcoming sections. For now, I'm assuming you are clear on what I'm trying to do here. Let me do the same for root. Here, I'm going to mention $ followed by curly braces, and environment variable name I'm going to mention as database_password, and the default value will be root. Next, let's try to define the value for the spring.datasource.url. So after the JDBC colon, we need to type MySQL, because right now we are trying to use the MySQL database, followed by colon. After colon, we need to mention 2 times forward slashes. After these forward slashes, we need to mention what is the host name of the database server. Since the host name is also going to change from environment to environment, what I can do is I can try to copy this syntax and paste it here. The default value I'll just mention as localhost, and the variable name I'll change to database underscore host. After the host name, we need to mention the port number. For the port number also, I'm going to follow the same syntax. Let me paste it here and replace this variable name to database underscore port. Coming to the default value, I'll just mention 3306. Please make sure you are mentioning the same port number that you have used inside the docker run command. After the port number, we need to mention / followed by the same syntax we need to mention. This time, instead of database underscore host, I'm going to mention database underscore name. The default database name I'm going to mention as easy store. If you try to understand the docker command that we ran, here we are trying to create a MySQL database with the name easy store, the same name we need to mention here. Otherwise, our application will not be able to connect with the MySQL database. So now I have defined data source URL, data source username and password. Coming to these initialization related properties, we no more needed them because right now we're not using embedded database. Instead, we are using production ready database like MySQL database. Usually these kind of properties will not be used in real applications because the database administrators, they are going to have complete control on the database. They are going to create the database tables, they are going to create the database columns, and if we need any data to be populated in those tables, we need to give the scripts to them. After enough approvals, DBA team, they are going to process them. Inside your Spring Boot application, never try to use these properties in a production application. That's why I'm trying to delete these properties, followed by, for this show SQL property as well, I'm going to follow the same syntax by mentioning $curly braces. And here, let me mention the environment variable name as JPA underscore show underscore URL. The default value I'm going to mention as true. Usually inside production environments or inside higher environments, SQLs should not be printed because your application will end up generating too many logs and it will also print some sensitive data. That's why I'm giving this flexibility here. With this setup, my operations team, they can try to create an environment variable in higher environments with the value as false, and that is going to be considered by this property, and with that, the SQL details will not be printed on the console. I'm also going to set up one more property here, which is spring.jpa.properties.hibernate.format_SQL is equal to true. The purpose of this property is when the SQL statements are getting printed on the console, I want them to be properly formatted so that I can easily understand them. Otherwise, they are going to be printed in a single line continuously without any proper formatting. So for this value also, we can try to follow this syntax. Let me copy this and paste it here. The variable name I'm going to use as hibernate underscore format underscore SQL. Let me save these changes and do the build. Once the build is completed, we can stop the application and try to start the application again using debug mode. This time inside the logs, you will be able to see there won't be any H2 database related logs. Instead, you will see some MySQL database related logs. This is because my Spring Boot is capable of understanding the dependencies that I have defined inside the pom.xml and accordingly creating the corresponding beans. So right now there won't be any beans around the H2 database. Spring Boot will only create the beans related to the MySQL database. So let me close this console. As a next step, I'll go to application.properties. Here I have this database icon. Using this, I'll try to connect to my database. If you are using IntelliJ Ultimate, you can follow the same. Otherwise, don't worry, in few seconds, I'm going to show you the alternate that you can follow. So let me click on this, and here hostname will be localhost port 3306, and this will be the username and password, and the database name is EasyStore, and this will be the URL. All the details will be automatically populated. You can click on this test connection. If this is successful, you can proceed by clicking on this apply OK, which is going to create a database connection. You can see I have H2 database connection as well. Let me delete that because we don't need it. Here you need to select remove data source. With that, we left with only a single database connection which connected to a MySQL database. This is the MySQL database logo, which confirms this connection is related to the MySQL database. Let me expand this and check inside the EasyStore database. As of now, you will be able to see there are no tables inside this database. We're going to create the tables and data in few minutes. But before that, let me show you the other alternative that you can follow to connect to this database. In case if you're not using IntelliJ Ultimate, you can go to the website called sqlectron.github.io. I will mention these website details under the README document of section 9. Inside this website, you need to click on this download GUI, which is going to take you a page where you can download the SQLectron product based upon your operating system. So here there are some Mac related zip files. Similarly, there are Windows related zip files and installations as well. Based upon your operating system, choose one of the file, download the same and install the SQLectron. Once you install the SQLectron, you can open the same. When you open the SQLectron, this is how it is going to look like. Of course, you will not have any connection details. Since I have set up some connection details, the same I'm able to see here. The purpose of this SQLectron is this is going to act as a simple client application using which you can connect to any database. It can be MySQL or Oracle database. Any database you can connect happily with the help of this simple client application. It won't take a lot of space as well inside your local system. Let me click on this add button to create a new connection. Here, I'm going to mention the name as Easy Store. The name can be anything. Coming to the database type, we need to make sure we're selecting the MySQL. These are all the other supported databases. Once the MySQL is selected, you need to type the host name as localhost, followed by username as root, password as root, and the initialized database as Easy Store. We have mentioned the same here as well. Whatever database name you have mentioned here, the same you need to mention here as well. Once you define all these basic details, you can click on this test button, which is going to give you this successful message, followed by you can click on the save button. And with that, you're going to have a new connection with the name Easy Store. Let me click on this connect. As of now, you'll be able to see there are no tables under this Easy Store database. Let me try to create some tables. I'll go to the schema.sql file. You can find this file inside the GitHub repo as well. So what I'll do is I'll try to open the query console by selecting this Easy Store. This is the query console. You can also open the query console by right clicking and selecting new query console. Let me copy these scripts and execute them here. Once these scripts are executed, I can go to the data.sql as well. In case if you are not using IntelliJ Ultimate, the same scripts you can try to execute here as well. It will not show the table names automatically. There is a refresh option, but for some reasons this is not working for me. I'm assuming the same applies for you. You need to close this connection and reconnect again. After reconnecting, you will be able to see the products table here. As of now, there is no data inside this table. Next, let's go to the data.sql. Here I have all the products related information. This time I'll try to execute the scripts inside the SQLectron. So let me paste those scripts and select all of them and click on this execute here. So all the data is created. I can confirm the same by clicking on this product, which is going to run the select query. So these are all the products. In total, we have 30 products. You don't have to make any code changes inside your business logic or inside your entities or repositories of Spring Data JPA. The code is going to work seamlessly regardless of which database you're trying to use. So now we set up the tables and data. Let me restart my application so that it can read the data from the new table that we have created. I'll go to the UI application and here I'll try to refresh this page. As you can see, the same data is being displayed on the application, and this time the data is coming from the MySQL database, but not the H2 database. Hooray! Inside the logs, you'll be able to see the SQL statements are being printed with a proper format due to the new property that we have added. Let me clean this console and try to refresh the page one more time. If I refresh this page, you'll be able to see some SQL select statements. I hope you're clear on what we have done to set up a MySQL database inside local system. Always please make sure your MySQL database container is running behind the scenes when you want to start your Spring Boot application. Otherwise, you're going to get an exception. I can also show you the same. Let me stop this container. Once the container is stopped, I'm going to restart my application, but this time the application will not start. Instead, I'm going to get a exception saying that error creating bean with the name entity manager factory. This is happening because the Spring Data JPA, it is trying to connect to the database based upon the properties that we have defined, but the database is not available. That's why we are facing this problem. Let me start the container again by clicking on the start button. Give some 20 to 30 seconds for the container to start successfully. Once the container started, you can try to start your application again. This time, the application should start without any problems. You can see the application started in 2 seconds. I can also confirm the same by refreshing the page here. All the products are being loaded properly without any problem. When you are not using your Spring Boot application, you can happily stop this container and close your Docker desktop as well. Don't try to delete this container. If you delete this container and if you lose the volumes data folder, you need to run the scripts again, like you need to create the table, followed by you need to populate the data. We're going to create more and more number of tables in the coming sections. For now, I'm assuming you are clear on how to set up a proper production database like MySQL database inside Spring Boot application. There is no major difference between setting up a H2 database and another database. Only you are going to change some database properties followed by the dependencies inside the pom.xml.